We are live. We are back, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. This is the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's part two today, family. Welcome back to Becoming Doctors for Our People, part three, with our beloved sister, the wonderful, newly minted physician, Sister Dr. Naa'irah Muhammad. Tune in for more of this dynamic episode after this awesome intro, family. Thank you so much. Strap in. Let's get it going. Awesome, awesome. Again, family, welcome back. This is the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture, family. Listen, we're back again. This is part two. Y'all were deep in the comments the first session when we talked to our dear sister. We're going to keep going moving forward. Family, we are live right now on Facebook at the STEM Files as well as YouTube at the STEM Files. I am your beloved co-host, your humble co-host, Jabril Muhammad, a brilliant engineer. I am a civilian mechanical engineer focusing on naval ship fluid systems with a background in material science and engineering, the study of the various materials classes and their respective properties and how the structures influence those properties. I am typically joined by my more illustrious co-host, Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. He is a biomedical research scientist with a background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and other blood vessels. Family, again, like we said, we are live, right? Make sure to tap in to like, comment, and share on all your social media. Tariq Cardiac, your brilliant engineer, the STEM files. All right, family. Like I always say, it's not about me. It's about not about Tariq. It's about who we bring on. Also, unfortunately, Tariq will not be joining us tonight. He's otherwise occupied with a very important series of events. He has a beautiful announcement coming up, but I'm gonna follow instructions. I'm not gonna run my mouth and say too much about what he got going on. I'm letting him do that at a later time. Without further ado, I want to reintroduce to some and present to all our beloved sister, Dr. Naa'irah Muhammad, recent graduate of the Latin American School of Medicine, ELAM, in Havana, Cuba. Assalamu alaikum, Queen.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for inviting me back to the show.
Oh, praises to Allah. Thank you so much for accepting again. I had so much fun just reconnecting, like after so long, and just from growing up in the mosque and everything together to now, all of the twists and turns of life, and now being young adults. Like that was enough for me.
Right.
But then on top of that, you had to hit us with so much game, right? About your journey, about the medical field in general. Like we talked
Right.
about, and it took me a minute to remember. I said the biopsychosocial aspect of medicine in Cuba. We talked about a little bit about how to get into that program. You talked about some of the different courses you had to take. We also went into how throughout the pandemic Cuba had been treating COVID and COVID patients. So today we want to definitely go a bit more into some different aspects of what it was that we were discussing before. But as we open up, I want to ask you after your first episode and that and it was shared with people. Did you get any feedback, family, friends, coworkers? What was that like, and how did people enjoy from your perspective and what you were talking about the first episode?
I got amazing feedback about the show. In fact, everybody was like, "Why didn't it go longer? We needed more time." So I know people are
Oh
very
man,
excited for
praises to
us to
Allah.
be back for part two because people were enjoying
Okay,
it so much.
okay,
They said the hour went by so quick last time. So
it
I got
did.
great feedback.
Yes, it did. Praise be to Allah. That's what we do. We feel like an hour is right in that nice time frame where it's like it's enough to formulate a thought process about what all, but it's not too much. You feel like, okay, now they drowning on, but okay, so
Right,
y'all wanted
right.
more. Praise be to. All right, that's good. That's good. I'm here. So what we want to get into as we open up is we want to talk about some differences between U.S. and international medical schools. That's kind of going to drive a bit of the conversation as we move forward. So, from your perspective, obviously going to medical school in Cuba and having colleagues both in Cuba, and I'm sure you have some colleagues that went to like medical schools here. What are some differences that you've either heard about or seen that you feel like people need to know and highlight as it pertains to maybe policy, the general education process, and other aspects that we didn't quite maybe even highlight during our first session?
Right. So, of course, the very first difference that, of course, a lot of people probably know is that Cuba's medical program is 6 years as opposed to the 4 years of medical school here in the States. And that mainly is for the clinical experience. Cuba gives you a lot more hands-on experience, a lot more hands-on time in the hospitals, but not only in the hospitals, but in your primary care, your doctor's offices, your community clinics. So that extra time allows for a lot more hands-on training for the medical students. Another difference I would say is with respect to just the whole Cuba's medical system is really based on prevention. Prevention is a very big part of Cuba's healthcare system. And so with that, there's a lot of public health initiatives that take place throughout our medical career. So like I briefly explained the last call, how when COVID happened, they did the COVID community screening. But that's not the first time that they did that, because, for example, when Cuba has outbreaks, for example, dengue, which is a tropical disease caused by mosquitoes, Cuba also does community screening. Their doctors, their nurses, their medical students, the nursing students, they all go out into the community and they knock on doors. They do they educate the population. So Cuba's, like I said, Cuba's system is a lot more preventative public health. Even another interesting project that we do in Cuba, which I did 3 times while I was in Cuba, if I'm not mistaken, it's called a community health analysis. So what this is, we do it during our family medicine rotation, or in Cuba, it's called general integrated medicine, medicina general integral. So what you do is you and your your group of medical students, they give you a certain community, and you are responsible to go door to door to write down everybody that is in that family that lives in that house, how old they are, what's their level of, like, what level of school are they in, if they have a job, if they have any risk factors. For example, do they smoke? Are they in the conception? Are they in the age of conceiving? If they have any diseases. And so your job is to consolidate and analyze this information, and you see what is the major health problem in that community, and you give it to the neighborhood doctor. So for example, after your community health analysis, you may come up with 60% of the population has hypertension, or 60-70% of the population smoke cigarettes. So this kind of gives your community doctor an idea of what health problems are affecting their community. So then they can take measures towards this particular health problem. So that's something that we did multiple times during our schooling in Cuba. And just like I kind of mentioned last time, Cuba's teaching, as far as medicine is concerned, is very integrative. So we learn not only about Western medicine, because of course we still learn about medications to treat patients, but we also learn a lot of the traditional therapies as well. We take classes on acupuncture and herbal medicine, all these things, and we learn how to use these different types of treatments to treat our patient, whether it be, like I said, whether it be a drug or whether it be a plant. And so I do think that, from what I heard is of other international medical graduates, that hands-on, they do get a lot more hands-on training. And as far as schooling in the States, a big focus on medical school in the States is your United States medical licensing exam. So a lot of the focus is put on making sure these students can pass this exam. So we're reading certain questions, we're book studying a lot in the States, I mean, to pass a certain exam, which is good because you do learn medicine that way. However, being as though that's not a focus of Cuba's system, because Cuba has students from all over the world with different requirements for their countries, Cuba solely focused on teaching you medicine. So, and that takes nothing away from how the students here in the States are trained, but that's another big difference. However, of course, for students that are planning to come back and practice here in the States, we do have to complete our exams. But these are just some of the initial differences that I think about. And I have more, but I don't want to keep, I feel like I've been talking for a while.
You're on it. You're on it. Yes, ma'am. And I'm, as you're talking, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm listening. I'm trying to be an active listener because you kind of got at the crux of, I think, what I thought a big difference was. And as I listened to your experience in Cuba and I try to juxtapose it to what you said to America, it definitely seems like there's more of a one size fits all type of approach when you talk about the American or Western medical school program versus in Cuba, there's a very niche approach that is driven by the specific population. So it's like, okay, we're all going to this school in Cuba, but my population or my area where I operate in may call for a different skill set than my classmate. However, we still have the same foundation, but we're also encouraged to have a very personal relationship so that the various skill sets we've been taught will come out in different ways at different times in different capacities. So now you really get a semblance of it takes a village, almost like you say, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to cure a community, right? Because you can't just, like in marketing, when they talk about billboards, like, oh, I'm gonna keep throwing something at this problem, hoping something sticks. Versus, okay, I'm a niche down, like on social media. I'm gonna have a targeted audience. Okay, this age group, this demographic over here likes to see this type of video or this type of content, as opposed to like, well, one size fits all. I'm a post like this forever and hope I get the same response as opposed to doing something else. So that was beautiful. That was beautiful, and I can only imagine how that shifts to the workplace, to where it's okay, you study all this time to pass a certain exam, whereas though you have this feeling of accomplishment that I've done this, I know this. But not, now on the other side, yes, you know what you know, but you also have deep, finely tuned interpersonal skills, and you to really care for others, right? And that's beautiful. I'm so glad. Go ahead, sis. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
No, because it made me think about, it's one thing to say, I want to serve an underserved community, but it's one thing to actually be living in it and speaking to the people and really connecting to the people to see what the true problems are and what they're really dealing with. So, so in these community health analysis we had to do, it wasn't only about what what disease they may have, if they may be smokers, drinkers. It was also about, okay, what are the conditions of the house? What are the conditions of their water? Where are they getting their water from? What type of water are you drinking? It was all of these things. And so it was totally different, I feel like, to live in that environment, like I said, and to connect with the people and to truly listen and sit down with the people and hear it, because then you can get a better idea of how to help these people, like you said. Because it's one thing to be like, yeah, I want to serve this community, but can you connect with this community? Because that's going to be a big factor in you being able to affect change in their lives.
Right. Absolutely. A big series of trigger words, or that's not the term I want to use, but I can't get it. Terms that are like very much used in the workplace today: diversity, equity, inclusion, sensitivity training. These are things that, whether you're, in leadership or in the workforce, they give you so that you're not doing things like, oh, maybe touching someone's hair, and that's not okay, or kind of using certain terms as if to be, one of us, but it's like, okay, this comes off very, very appropriate, or just certain things. Like, can you connect? It's like, yes, you
Right.
know your stuff, but at a certain point, your ability, your knowledge base, your expertise is only as good as your ability to impart that and have it work for that person. So it's
Right.
like tutoring, and I tutor for math. It's like, okay, I think of myself as, knowing, basic to advanced math pretty well, right? But no, me talking to one client versus another, I can't necessarily explain the same subject or geometry the same way, because somebody may
Right.
have an issue with respect for authority. Somebody may have an issue where they are visual versus an audio learner. Like, you have to tailor which, like, your presentation to who it is that you're talking to. So I see that, and I definitely can see how that
Exactly.
was helpful. You spoke ahead of my next question. It was so key when you started talking about the naturopathic aspects of things. That was a big thing for me. In Western society,
Mm.
Western medicine, it's very symptom driven. It's like, okay, take this pill, take this to address this symptom, but your underlying condition or underlying root cause goes unaddressed. Of the some of the naturopathic studies that you came into contact with while you're in Cuba, what what principles or what types of traditional practices stood out to you the most? What do you look forward to potentially utilizing in your own practice in the future?
Mm. One of the one of the things that it's so funny because so many are coming to mind right now, but we learned about, for example, the anti-inflammatory effects of garlic. We learned about
Mm,
onions, its anti-inflammatory effects. We learned about, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of some of the other, because a lot of it was
take your
different.
time.
There were literally different plants, different herbs that it was like, this helps with inflammation. This is antifungal. This is antibacterial. And I have the whole list of it, but all of it is not coming to my mind right now. But I definitely plan on implementing that, but that also just goes back to the importance of how to eat to live and nutrition, and how food and the way we eat can also contribute to our health, building our immune system, helping us control or prevent these diseases. So that's something that I definitely want to implement, as far as just helping people, as far as nutrition and building, just trying to build these certain properties or use these certain properties in their foods to help them, as well as, and then I think it also depends, because it also goes into what you said about knowing your patient, because you have certain patients who may be interested in or in looking into acupuncture. You have I'm trying to think of other different traditional therapies that we learned about, but certain people may not be open to acupuncture, whereas other people may. Certain people may want to hear about the plant medicines they can use, and other people may not. Certain people may want to learn about the essential oils they can use, or auricular pressure therapy, where you can press different pressure points. We learned about all of these different things, as well as, like I said, as well as the drugs to treat different diseases. Even exercise was spoken about as far as treating diseases. They talked about sage and how that can be important with the respiratory tract. So, or is it oregano? It might be oregano, excuse me. So it's a lot, and you have to know your audience, I think, too. But I plan on definitely listening to my patient and not being so quick to necessarily prescribe a drug, because I don't think that's the best way to always go about it. I think it takes that, you have to talk and communicate with your patient, and also realizing, because one thing that the doctors would always say to us, like, the person you're sitting in front of, yeah, that's your patient, but it's another human being. Any day that could be your mother. Any day that can be your brother, your sister, your uncle. So talk to them like they're a human being. Treat them like you're a human being. Get them to respect as another human being. So
You know, you again. So every time you talk, you answer a question. I'm my mind is racing because It's so many poignant points that are coming up. And I'm going to start with what you just said because that was so key. You said just because someone's your patient. Well, let's take a step back and let's analyze that word, right? Patient is obviously very similar to what? Patience. When you think about and internalize what it means to sit across from a patient, it means you are required to have patience with that client, with that individual, to sit through
Right.
and really have in your mind the goal of my practice, the goal of me being here. My whole purpose is to hear an issue and solve it with the
Right.
utmost of care and respect for that individual, their belief systems, or what have you. See, paying me as opposed to, you know what? How can I make this patient a one-time patient? Not that you don't want to see them again, but can I do something that they don't have to come back to me anymore?
Right.
Because I can still formulate a relationship with somebody outside of that room, but when it comes to your health, my thought process is I nor the patient should desire to have to routinely come back for whatever it is that they're going through. So how can I quickly and effectively address what they're talking about, formulate that relationship to where so they feel comfortable. So when you talked about, okay, somebody might want to know about stage, the exercise, the pressure points, what have you. See, if I'm truly concerned about my health and I'm concerned about my relationship with that doctor, that's when I want to know those things. But if it's just I'm kind of afraid, I really don't care too much. I hate the doctors of the hospital. I want to get in, get the pill, and get out.
Right.
Right. So that's where that becomes so important. Family, it's so crazy. There's so many gems being dropped. We're almost halfway through the show. I need some black fists in the comments. If you're enjoying what you are watching, what you're hearing, throw some black fists in there. And we thank y'all so much for being present. Mr. Leisure, thank you for the information. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Walaikum salam, Sister Brenda. Walaikum salam. Auntie Naja, yes, ma'am. Garlic and onions. Look, I grew up on garlic and onions,
Me
and
too.
I still keep the trend going in my marriage. So, garlic and onions are always in the rotation. It's in my meals. It's sometimes in my drinks. It's in
Yep.
all kind of stuff. Praise be to Allah.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua Jamil, community-based healthcare, people over profit. We can start the
Mm.
show right now. That's it. That's the whole crux of the show right there. Praise be to Allah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I see the black fist. Okay. Okay. So we're going to keep it moving. All praises due to Allah. So this this show is titled Becoming Doctors for Our People. Now, that title, there's so much to unpack, but there's so much underlying motivation there. So we have from one of your stories you posted on Instagram. People giving you questions for what you want to talk about today. So a sister, I don't have her name, but she goes by Jana, Jana or Jana and M on Instagram. She said, "How are you able to stay persistent throughout your 7 years in Cuba?" Now, this question I feel like is so important because it's one thing to talk about the science and talk about what you learn, but the Honorable Minister Farrakhan teaches us in the Nation of Islam that everything of value has a difficulty factor attached to it. And I know this
Mm.
is people, anybody you ask, this is one of my favorite quotes because it's so real. It's so plain, as we say in the nation, make it plain. But that's to me encapsulates what it is that you went through. So can you speak to that persistence, that due diligence, how you stayed focused, if there was a person, a mission, a thing that allows you to kind of stay on that road and how it got you to where you are today?
Yes, that is a very, very good question because Cuba, although, looking back on it, it was very rewarding, but it was very difficult, very hard going through the journey. And the first person I must thank is Allah, because if it weren't for Allah,
Absolutely.
I would not have made it because some people don't.
Come on.
And I also think that for me, it was just me being focused on the end goal and the mission. I think I just had to keep my mind on what I was there for and understanding and knowing that I was there for a reason. Allah put me there for a reason. And knowing that the outcome would be so much more rewarding. And not just that, I think the first few years, all of the time in Cuba was very hard. But I think after the first few years, and I'm seeing the growth in me as an individual by what I was going through. I'm seeing how it helped me in my character, and how being there just also contributed to me evolving as a woman. So I think it was a necessary journey. And so I grew to appreciate what I went through in Cuba. However, like I said, it was a lie. It was my mother, it was my family, my friends, those who kept being constant motivators throughout that time, constant reminders that I can do it, that I can push through. Because I had many days I wanted to give up. Many days. Many days where I cried. Many days where I was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. But Allah blessed me to make it through. And I'm grateful that I'm sitting here on the other side looking back, and I'm very, very grateful for every step of the journey. Every step of the journey, the good times, the bad times, because I learned from it. And, you know, and this is just kind of bringing, it's kind of bring me back to something that came up in my mind in your first question or two. But just, I think when we talk about healthcare systems, I won't sit here and say that everything about Cuba's system is perfect, nor do I think everything about our system is bad.
Come on.
And so I think for me, the beautiful thing is being able to get a taste of both sides and being able to bring the best parts of each together to help me treat my patients.
Come on with the lessons. Come on. That's right.
So yeah, I think so. It was a journey, but praise be to Allah. Thank my mother. Thank everybody who helped me make it through it. Yeah, that's all. It was a lot. Staying focused.
Lord, you done took. As I'm listening to you, done took me to the final call. Then you took me to supreme wisdom. As I'm listening, I'm saying, look, I see. That's how you know NGT. Come on now. That's how you know. That's how you real. I'm here with it. I'm here with it.
Praise be to Allah. I'm glad you're picking up.
Yes, man. I'm here. I'm here. All right, but so I got to this thing because you brought this up. You said being there for a mission. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, right? So we in the Nation of Islam, we have a mission. Our sole purpose is to deliver the 30, 40 million more dead to the Lamb of God, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad through the honorable minister Farrakhan. Now, when you talk about education, rarely does someone become educated for education's sake. What do I mean? Education is generally a means to an end. Now, obviously, you appreciate and you learn to enjoy the process, but when you grow to be educated, it's to be a proper functioning, high functioning member of a truly self-sufficient and prosperous society, right? So we're taught to do for self, right? In this pandemic, we've seen people be threatened with loss of work, having job security or wavering on whether or not they're going to take the vaccine to ensure that they can continue work, collecting a check or what have you. Being as you're freshly out of school, you're in healthcare, which is it's probably the number one industry deals with pressure as it pertains to vaccines. What is your thought process and what does your future look like in the spectrum that is doing for self? What are your thoughts on how you plan to heal our people and embody that mantra for self and society as you move forward in these next several years?
Repeat your question for me, so I'm making sure I'm answering it properly.
It was great. I'm so glad you said that because when I finished, I said, I bet I was mad confusing this now. I said a lot and didn't need to say that much. No problem. So what I mean to say is, considering you're in healthcare, which is definitely being attacked on the basis of the vaccine, people keeping their jobs and everything. What where does doing for self come into play specific journey? How soon do you see yourself being able to work in that capacity? And what does that look like for Sister Naa'irah?
Mm. Well, my goal has always been to open up my own clinic. That's something that I always wanted to do since I first started medical school. That was always my vision. For me, of course, well, for anybody, once you're out of medical school, you have to go to residency. Residency is hospital, where you're in a hospital, you're specializing. So I'll be going into residency, inshallah, this upcoming year. And that's residency for me would be 3 years, fellowship in cardiology, another year or two, interventional cardiology. But so for me, it'll take a few years for me to get my clinic up and running or started. However, I think that this whole vaccine push is definitely it's forcing us to start brainstorming ways we can be self-sufficient. However, like I said, for me, I'll be a few years in the hospitals, and I have a lot of things in mind that I'm trying to do as far as for my community, for like I said, for my clinic and things that I would like to open up. But those will, it'll be a few years out. But that is something that I'm, thinking about and working on next after residency and specializing.
Praise be to Allah. And I asked that question because, like you were saying, the vaccine push and the current state of affairs, the weather, all these things, I think about every day where I am in life now, where I desire to be, where I should be, where Allah wants me to be, how to meet and overcome certain obstacles, what do I want for my family. And it's easy to shoulda, coulda, woulda all day. It's easy to look at where you are, juxtapose it to where you think or where you could be, and kind of get a little overwhelmed. But I think what's important for young professionals or people who have an idea in mind of what they want out of life and want to make an impact that has at its foundation an entity that they control, is you have to always remember that it is a process. But something being a process is not to say that you shouldn't have a plan and be constantly working toward the end goal throughout that process, right? A process is literally just that. It's something that is systemized, has steps. It's not just existence, So as you talked about your clinic, and as you talk, just the desire to do that, I think a great question or thoughts in my mind is, where does your mind go in terms of the connections that you need to make, the types of people you would need to have, to work with you to bring that to fruition? How does the collectivism in STEM start to come picture for you when it comes to that aspiration that you have?
Right. I love what you said too, because when you started talking about, having a plan in mind and still having to stick to a process, graduating from medical school and everybody quick, like, yeah, where the hospitals at? Where this at? Where's that at? But like you said, it's a process. And even I think becoming an entrepreneur and doing for self in any field is a process. And I think that we have to be patient patient during the process. And like you said, think about the steps and what needs to happen. So we aren't rushing into things, but we're getting a good outcome when we actually do take that step to become entrepreneurs or do for self and start our own businesses, our clinics, whatever that may be. But I think when we're talking about building a clinic, building hospitals, building healthcare systems, we need everybody. We need doctors, we need nurses, we need administrators, we need technology people, Sister Tarika in health informatics, you all engineering. We need all of that to build something. Like, I'm not enough, but it takes a community. And so we will have to pull our research sources. We will have to network. And that's what everything, I think that's important, that we need to continue to emphasize that we have to be resources for one another. I feel like these other ethnicities, you know, they have no problem networking and contacting their resources, pulling their resources, helping one another out. And we have to be continuously doing the same. I think sometimes we're worried about somebody doing better than us. We're worried about our name, our face not being the face on the front of everything. But no, we need teamwork. And that's another thing that was really big in my studies in Cuba, you know, teamwork, community, accountability. This is what we need to build the nation, if this is what we're talking about, to build our own.
Come on. If you believe what you heard today is true and good for our people, can I have a show of hands? Can I get a show of hands?
I cannot.
Come on now. Come on now. That's fast charity receptacle. Come on now. All right. So with that, again, I swear every time you answer a question, you go into my next thought. So before we get into that, we are at literally the halfway point of the show. Family, we pray that you've been enjoying. I'm enjoying it. My energy is on 10 right now. Since Naa'irah, like it's always love. Like you're doing a wonderful job, just like the first time. At this point, we definitely want to highlight a couple things, right, family? Again, we are live, right, on Facebook at the STEM Files, YouTube as well at the STEM Files. Make sure you're sharing the content with everyone, family, friends, loved ones, co-workers. If people are desirous of getting on the show, if you want to get on the show yourself or have someone that you feel like would be a great addition to the show, make sure you DM us on Instagram if you want to, at the STEM Files. Tariq Cardiac, your brilliant engineer as well. We love to continue to highlight, continue to make this content move forward and evolve. Also, the STEM Success Summit presented by STEM Media, our beautiful brother Nehemiah Mabry, who's one of our various contacts in our network, and he's become like a brother to myself and Tariq. Him and his team, this is their third annual STEM Success Summit, which is basically this awesome conglomerate of STEM professionals, whether they be in policy and practice, in academia, in industry, coming together to give a high value workshops on a number of different things, from school to graduate school to industry to entrepreneurship. They are a call for speakers. So they're looking for STEM professionals to speak or lead a workshop on healthcare. And I believe there's some other workshops as well, but this STEM Success Summit. So again, if you want to sign up or put in an application, the application actually does close on Friday. So so you don't have too much time. So go to www.stemsuccesssummit.com. That's if you're interested in just being an attendee and taking in a summit. Last year was my first summit. It is completely free. Go to that website again to just register for the summit and come in and tap in. It's a beautiful, highly full of melanin magic series. A wonderful time. I learned a lot, made some great connections, so call for speakers. Application closes on Friday. So with that, I have a beautiful question from my someone near and dear to my heart, from my father-in-law. He asked, Brother Sylvester Muhammad, he said, Assalamu alaikum, what was it like, and you started to speak to this, working with the students from other countries? My daughter, Miata, graduated from Cuba, the Cuban Medical School. I remember the minister visiting, and he told her that it's going to be hard, but you can do it. By the grace of Allah, she did and got into residency right away. We're so proud of you, my sister. So generally speaking, we kind of talked a bit about that relationship, but talk to us about the relationship with those students. You got people from all over the place, some Spanish speaking, some not, trying to learn Spanish, all trying to be doctors, good doctors for society. What was that like?
Yes. And I'm so glad thank you for your question, Brother Sylvester. And I'm so glad he brought up Dr. Mayada, because I meant to highlight her the last show, because she was the first graduate from the NOI of the Latin American
Yes.
School of Medicine.
What?
And then it was Brother Shaquel from upstate New York, or Dr. Shaquel, excuse me, from upstate New York. And they were the first to actually lay the base and the foundation for those who came behind. So I just want to show my gratitude to them. But what was it like working with other students from other countries? You know, it was it was very nice. I think that I'm sorry, the comment. I'm sorry, my mom's comment distracted
Yeah.
me.
You all good. You all good.
It was very nice, and so I think, you know, it was really nice the fact that we all came and learned Spanish. Because just imagine if we all didn't come to learn that one language, we wouldn't be able to connect. And so I think that was one of the beautiful things of us all coming together, learning this new language and being able to connect with one another. And of course, I was on campus, so I had a chance to live with people from other countries. And I think, you know, I think at first it could be a bit different, you know, stepping outside of your comfort zone, and because you're not just mixing it up with one person from another country, but it's a whole, you know, you got somebody from the South Pacific, you got people from Middle East, you got people from West Africa. So it could be a bit overwhelming at first, but like I said, once we were able to connect with one another, I think we built great connections where it, you know, ended up being like, hey, you got to come visit me in my country when you leave. Like, we got to come meet up again. I got to come visit you. You got to come visit me. So it was very nice. It was nice exposure, and not even just other students, but other Muslims, because there were Muslims from different parts of Africa. There, I had Palestinian friends, so that was also nice having that connection. And them, even sometimes they were looking like, "You're a Muslim from the States." I got that multiple times, like, "You're Muslim and you're from the U.S." You know. But once they got to know me, they're talking to me, they're seeing me, you know, it was Assalamu alaikum, Naa'irah, you know. So it was a beautiful experience. And I think we built connections with people from all over the world that are long lasting connections, and that we will be able to, inshallah, utilize in the future moving forward when we need those networks and those resources, or when they may need us, or when we may need them as far as their healthcare, their doctor services, you know. So it was a beautiful experience and a humbling experience.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Damn, we got new questions, just that fast. So we're gonna get into those really quickly. But I just wanted to make a quick comment. You know, even though, you know, the human being is really the glory of God, we do share with the rest of the animal kingdom, or some of the animal kingdom, that we are mammals. And one key aspect of mammals is that mammals thrive in community. A lot of times when you as a human being, particularly in the Black community, become self-isolated, which is a big part of why the pandemic has been so disruptive in a certain way, is that there's certain aspects of our community base that have been taken from us. So the ability to speak to your fellow man, engage him or her, you know, see a difference in opinion on things, and, you know, have certain values and morals and juxtapose them to someone else. You learn more about who you are, and you become better at just thriving as an individual. So that's so important. So what we're going to do is, in these next 15 minutes, definitely get into these questions. Thank you so much. So we got the first question. And I think you went into this a bit from the first, but we're going to definitely go into this. Sister Shakura Muhammad. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please let me know in the comments. Shakura Muhammad. Why did you choose to go into the medical field, and what was the hardest part about it?
That's a very good question. Why did I choose to go into the medical field? I chose to go into the medical field, to be honest, it was something that I wanted to do since I was very little. I think growing up, seeing Black doctors, Black female doctors, it was something that I saw, and it was something that I wanted to do from very young. But growing up, I wanted to be in a position where I could affect change in the lives of my brethren. And I felt that being in medicine would be, not would be, we needed to be there. When I say we, us Black people, we needed more Black physicians because we will be the best ones to be able to affect change in our lives. And so for me, I wanted to affect change in the lives of my people. And the hardest part about going into the medical field, what was the hardest part, or what is the hardest part? I think it all depends, because I say that because, for example, the hard part being in Cuba as a doctor may not be the hardest part being in the States as a doctor. Not may not, is not.
Nuance, like.
And so it all depends on where you're practicing. But if I'm referring to practicing here, the hardest part would be, I think now I would say the hardest part would be, I guess, the capitalistic mindset behind the healthcare system, and how really, drugs is the driving force of our healthcare system, unfortunately. And so I do think, depending on what type of doctor you want to be, that could be problematic for you. And then just being honest, dealing with patients is not easy. It's not easy. You get hard patients. It's difficult to have patience, like you said, Jabril, sometimes, because, you will get those patients sometimes like, yeah, I don't want to take medication, but yet they don't want to do the lifestyle changes either, so then you dealing with, like, okay, how do we, so I think it has these different challenges, and I can't speak to the hardest part because, like I said, when I was in Cuba, there was different challenges, but I think overall you will have a hard patient. And I think the hardest part of being in the medical field, I'll say, you have to make sure you're also taking care of yourself as the doctor, the person who is treating others. You have to make sure you are treating yourself and putting your health, making sure your health is a priority as well, because treating other people becomes very draining. It becomes very draining. And so although you want to affect change in the lives of other people, you got to make sure you're still here to continue to do that, and that you're in your right mental space so that you're doing your job properly. So that's my answer.
Another thing from the pandemic been so important and has been highlighted. We've seen different athletes come forward. Simone Biles, what's the tennis player? Naomi Osaka. A lot of different individuals have kind of brought it to the forefront. But I'm going to keep going because we got the comments rolling in. Okay, we got brother Elijah. He's next. He said, Sister Shania Shakur Muhammad is his daughter. Okay, praise be to Allah. I see the father-daughter combo in the comments. All right, so we got brother Elijah. He says, how did attending an HBCU for undergrad prepare you for medical school? I think that's a big question. Big question. Thank you, brother Elijah.
I'm struggling to answer this a bit because I know I had a very different medical school journey that I don't know what necessarily could have prepared me for it. A very unique journey. I think because my journey was so unique in another country, I think overall, like we spoke about on the previous show and earlier, just the education systems are very different when we talk about US and we talk about Cuba. Of course, I majored in biology, so I had a strong. I participated a lot in the divisions of science and math at my school, and so we had a lot of different STEM related events, which was very helpful, of course, to have that foundation going into medicine. But to be completely honest, I can't necessarily say that, or I can't point out how my experience at the LeMoyne Owen College has I can't really say. If anything, my Islam, me being in the nation, you know, my prayer, my faith, these are things that prepared me for my journey in medical school, if I'm being very honest with you. I can't, if I'm being very frank, I cannot necessarily say one thing in particular about, because even though we were at a HBCU, I still think the culture, and I'm speaking for my school because I don't know if all HBCUs are the same, and I don't think they are. I think the culture overall in the education here is every man for himself. You know, I think people, we are very individualistic. That's how we operate. I feel like it's, you know, I worry about myself. I get where I do what I got to do. I make sure I'm good. Where that was very different going into medical school in Cuba, where it was a very community oriented, teamwork all the time, accountability type of education system. And I can't necessarily say that I think my HBCU experience contributed directly to preparing me for medical school in Cuba.
Well, brother Elijah, I'm sure that wasn't what you was expecting, but it's real, and I think that we can't assume that, you know, as a Black person going to a, you know, being around a Black organized body necessarily, because it's another thing, and this comes into the topic, you know, becoming doctors for our people. I asked the question, I think the last session, what's the difference between being a Black doctor and a doctor for Black people? That's not the same thing.
Right.
You get a lot of people who are Black here, but not necessarily Black here or here. So environment and what's upstairs really comes into play when it comes to fortifying and creating your value base going forward into that field. So thank you so much, beloved, for that question. Also, I want to highlight this. So apparently, Sister Shania is his 14-year-old daughter that is a sophomore in college, making history at Langston University. Like, y'all, 14-year-old sophomore in college, man. Elijah Muhammad said, man, children don't need to be spending necessarily all that time in school and not moving forward if they're ready. You know what I'm saying? Understand, and that's why I thank Allah for being homeschooled, because if I needed more time to do something, I did it. My mother did it. If I moved through a lesson or moved through something and was ready for the next thing, that's what would happen. So I didn't necessarily need to worry about my juxtaposition or comparison to a classmate sitting next to me, unless it was Amin, but me and my younger brother Amin like 5 years apart. So you know, that's a thing right there. So you know, it's that's very important. But thank you so much. Next question as we get ready to shut it down. Man, we 7 minutes left. We're gonna rock this out though. We're gonna rock this out. Brother Joshua, this is a great question. He said, may you speak more on the pros and cons of Cuba's healthcare system and America's healthcare system, and what's your idea of an ideal or perfect healthcare system? Perfect in quotes.
Question, it's a great question, and it really can be a long answer, but I'm gonna try to answer it as concisely and quickly as possible. So, and some of them I already spoke about, but I'll reiterate a few. Now, one of the things that I speak about when I talk about the differences is I speak about the motivation behind both systems, and how Cuba's system is very preventative. Cuba's doctors, they get paid the same amount regardless of how many patients they see in a day. They don't get paid a lot. And so although it's a good thing because, you know, money isn't driving you, and you can take however long you want to take with your patients, you can, you know, you're not feeling pressured to get them in or out. You're not feeling pressured to give them a drug because the pharmaceutical company is going to pay you, or insurance company going to pay you more or less if you don't do this or that. They're free to treat their patient how they would like. They're free to sit and talk to their patient however long they would like. However, it can become a con to a certain extent, where sometimes there's not really a respect for time, or that, or sometimes, to be honest, or sometimes the motivation sometimes isn't there, because like I said, doctors are underpaid in Cuba. Doctors aren't getting paid different based off of the amount of patients they see. So sometimes the service, sometimes you'll have patients waiting for hours because the doctor may just want to sit and talk to you for however long they feel like it, or they may have a phone call and they may be like, well, I'm not getting paid any different anyway. Why do I need to rush to see you?
Great
points. That's real. And that's why I do, like I said, it would be advantageous to have, you have to have some type of time constraint or respect for time with, for your patients as well. Not to say that you need to rush them through their visits, but you also have to be mindful, like, hey, I'm in this meeting, I'm in this encounter, but I have another patient waiting on me. So that's one of the things that I noticed. Of course, with respect to Cuba's healthcare system as well, we know that Cuba is a developing country. Cuba is a country that is under an embargo. Cuba has limited resources. So you sometimes can go to a hospital and you may want a certain treatment and you get told, well, we don't have it. And then the patient is like, well, what do I do? We don't have anything. But that's the reality of what happens. We don't have enough needles and syringes. We don't have enough scalpels. We don't have enough alcohol. And so we prioritize for certain things because we don't have this much to just be wasteful. Which sometimes it can be a bit frustrating on the doctor end, because you're like, hey, I want to do something, but I don't have enough resources. Or shoot, we may not have enough running water. There are things that they encountered there because of their limited resources. But the beautiful thing is, despite that, Cuba has persevered, and they still have one of the top healthcare systems in a relatively healthy community, especially with respect to in comparison to the community here, and the morbidity here. I'm sorry, a thought. I was thinking of something else to say next, and it just slipped my mind. Hold on, let me think. America's healthcare system. What's your idea of a perfect system? Yeah. So I think for me, that would be the biggest con as far as Cuba's is concerned. And I think, like I said, I think Cuba's also limited with their resources. But I think that, based off of everything else that I already said about how Cuba treats, how they have a holistic, integrative approach, that's something that I think is beneficial and should be in any healthcare system. I think prevention is something that is very important, and I think that should be a part of an ideal healthcare system. I think that I don't believe that we should be driven by money, but I do think that, respect for time is very important. That could also still, I think you can have a good mixture of both, where you feel like you're giving your patient enough time, they're not feeling rushed, but you're also being respectful to those who may be waiting for you. And I'm sorry, a couple of things came to mind, and they're slipping right now. But
what about universal healthcare? I just put it out there because it's a hot button topic. I believe it should exist, and I'm thinking that's one of the major things that is a complaint about the American system and systems in general.
This is true. I do think that is definitely one of the pros of Cuba's healthcare system, and being able to. I do think it's a pro, and I do think it should be a part of an ideal healthcare system. However, like I said, you still also have, because even though you're able to get to the doctor whenever you need to, you do get those people that come in that don't necessarily need anything at all, but they're coming and taking up time because they know they can. because they know they
They just
can, so they
walking up
will
in
come
there.
up. Mm-hmm. Like, can you just give me a little IV? Like, what do you need it for, ma'am? Like, can you just give me a
Right.
chest
Now can
X-ray,
you give me an
ma'am? What the?
IV?
Literally, I'm so serious. The things that I've seen. Like, can you just give me a chest X-ray because I think I felt something? Like, ma'am, so,
Oh
so
no, the wind
it's
blew
like I
funny. I
do
think I got a whisper like,
literally.
oh
So
man. I can
I
feel you
do
right
think
now.
I'm glad you
Can
brought
you
that
check
up.
my elbow real quick? Like,
Literally. Like I got a
oh my
bump.
god.
Look, the camera is different. So I'm over here. Look, they be in there like I got a bump. Can you? I think I need something for you. Like you don't need anything. You don't. But see, so it's
Oh
nice.
no.
It's nice.
I
But
feel
you do
you.
get those other.
Feel you.
It does. I think, like I said, every system has its good. It has its good. It has its bad, and you just have to find a nice. Try to find a nice medium in between both. But that was a great point. I'm glad you brought it up.
Mm-hmm. Praise be to Allah. Okay. So, family, as we now close, we definitely want to highlight a few things. First off, Sister Dr. Naa'irah, I've always got to put that sister first, Sister Dr. Naa'irah. I
Definitely.
growing up, I used to think you wanted to be a professional ballroom dancer, but you became a doctor instead. So,
No,
it's
you
all
did
good.
not say that on
It's,
live.
it's all good. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, we need doctors too. We need doctors too. Praise be to Allah. But I did want to highlight something. So, family, as we always want to make sure we highlight the Final Call newspaper, the premier news source for the Nation of Islam. This is the baddest paper information source on the planet, black owned or otherwise. The latest issue is Black Families, Children Under Siege. Make sure you follow at Final Call Newspaper on social media. Also, get your latest issue, digital issue at finalcalldigital.com. Also, wherever you are, tap in with your local Nation of Islam representatives, FOI or NGT. You get your physical edition as well. Some of us, we still like to get the highlighting and crossing out and doing those things. The average physical paper actually goes through at least 7 hands. So imagine, moving several papers, 100 or so. Now you get into at least maybe 700 hands or so. It starts to move around. And it's nothing like giving a message dedicated to the resurrection of the black men and women in America and the world as a gift to someone and staying in touch with unadulterated truth as we're in a high level information age. So that's the Final Call newspaper. Make sure you tap in, family. So the last thing I would like to do is something I don't think we got to do on the first session, and something me and Tariq really have enjoyed some of the questions. So we like to flip the table around a little bit. So we allow for our guests to do a little bit of interviewing and ask us a question or two, and it may come to their mind about us, who we are, what it is that we do, why we do what we do, what have you. So at this time, I'm going to allow you to be the host, me to be in your seat. And if you have any questions, anything you'd like to ask about the STEM files or what have you, you're free to do so at this time.
Yes, actually, I was thinking about what you both do. I was thinking about the STEM files, and I was curious to know what's your ultimate goal, or what's your ultimate vision as far as what you want to accomplish, not only in your personal career path, but as far as with the STEM files overall. So,
Mm-hmm.
in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, what is the ultimate vision?
So I'll speak to the STEM files specifically as that was part of your question. So the STEM files in its foundation and essence is the media arm for the overarching company of Original Man Scientific. Original Man Scientific is the science and technology company that is geared towards delivering research and development solutions to your community. And obviously with a focus on the black community, primarily other marginalized communities, we want to be that hub for ideas to come to fruition. And the STEM files, we want to have one aspect that does what we're doing today, highlights those in our community that are doing great things in academia, in entrepreneurship, in industry, in the government sector, or what have you, to show young people, to show the population that, hey, not only are we black in STEM, but black is and has always been STEM, and we've always done it at a high level. Tap in with us, connect with us, follow us, be inspired by us as you go and do and meet and overcome all obstacles in your path. Then on the other
Mm-hmm.
side, as we come up with solutions, products, and services in the R&D sector, we want to utilize that to promote what it is that we're doing, have people kind of get a better semblance of who we are, what we're trying to do, and keep that open line of communication open as something very unique that other maybe science technology companies don't have. You may do a marketing campaign, you may be on social media, but how often are you able to speak to or like see your director of engineering or COO, whatever, weekly talking about products and services in addition to highlighting a fellow professional. So as we move forward, we definitely want to grow the platform, grow the technological capability of it. We've come such a long way and produce a very high quality show. We want to reach even more people, have even and grow our personal clientele, but also be like that first stop for the young and aspiring, Black STEM professional to get their voice heard and to be disruptive if they so choose. So that's the STEM files. And then for myself personally, me and Tariq, Tariq is in the biosciences, me as an engineer. I have a goal, and I'm still trying to move forward to it, to have my own, part of Original Man Scientific be an engineering firm. I really like integrating or interacting with customers on engineering solutions. I do that for work now. And Tariq, definitely, I know he's talked a lot about, building hospitals, having a hospital. He's talked about triage centers and all these types of things. That's what he wants to do. So on a personal level, we have that. We want to grow Original Man Scientific to be the premier Black-owned and operated R&D company that really helps move society forward in a very, very holistic and ethical manner in accordance with the teachings.
Do I have time for one more question?
Absolutely.
I mean, I really have two, but I'm gonna just ask one.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna ask both my questions. Okay. So the first question is, what was the moment where you all had the idea? What was the point in your lives? What was going on? What sparked the vision of the STEM files?
So Original Man Scientific, or all of this, is really Tariq's brainchild. So I thank Allah for this, brother. We have a mutual mentor in FOI, Brother David Hassan, who he's currently in Philadelphia in Mos 12, but before that was in Virginia, is where he knows Tariq from. And he always talk about this young brother Tariq. All he wanted to be was an FOI. He was ready to go. He had all these grand ideas and science. He said, I got to connect y'all. So we connect. Tariq's talking to me about how he's soon to be married. He really has this idea for this company. And that's how Original Man Scientific comes. So as we're moving and shaking, trying to figure out how we want to operate, he eventually comes up with this idea for this show. Hey, I want to start highlighting Black people in STEM to really kind of create a network and kind of make that world even smaller. We started on Blog Talk Radio. We went to like Google Hangouts, and then eventually come to StreamYard to see and put together what we have here. But the motivation was always, hey, we want this to be your home away from home. So whenever you got something to say, something to share, something to highlight, we want you to feel comfortable enough to come on with your brothers, little brothers or big brothers, and share with the world, share with your people what it is that makes you special, what it is that God put you on this earth to do, to help move the world forward. So that's really when it started into why it is that we do what we do.
Okay, my last question. My last question is, what would you say is the most rewarding part of the work that you and Brother Tariq are doing? Because, just hearing how you all have grown the show and seeing what you all are doing, and you and Brother Tariq are doing great things in your own personal lives, and you all are here highlighting other Black talent, and the spirit behind it, the humility, the energy, it's beautiful. Like, you can feel it. And so I want to know, what is the most rewarding part of this journey that you all are on with Original Man Scientific and the STEM files and highlighting other Black talent? What would you say is the most rewarding part of it?
That's the first time I feel like that question has been asked to me or us in that way. I'm gonna try not to I kind of got a little emotional just now. For me, I really, sometimes when you at the job and you work, you can lose sight of, I guess, the purpose. Sometimes you may fall out of love with the process, but you remember what it is that you are there for, to provide, and all those things. When I'm personally on the STEM files and I'm engaging, I feel like I'm really making a difference. And when I get these comments and people say things like, this is amazing. My 18-year-old son is an industrial engineering major on a full ride scholarship. Like, people talk their stuff and highlight their children, and oh, this is a great show. Very proud of you and Tariq. And it's not so much that we're proud of me, but the fact that people enjoy what it is that we put out, that people see value in the product or the service that we render. Like, and that it's Black owned and it's unapologetically Black. And I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. Not that I do that in the other places, but I do my best not to. But this is our platform. And it makes me feel good to know that I'm being me and being appreciated for being me for people who look like me on this platform. And when other people find someone they connect to and enjoy the show and can connect, and then we hear about maybe a connection on the back end, that's rewarding. So I think it's really knowing that we're assisting, even if it's a very small amount, we're assisting in someone and a fellow Black man or woman tell their story. And assert their value to the population. That's the most rewarding thing for me. Like, whatever little or much help we provide, we're allowing you to share your story. So I'll say that's the most rewarding thing for me.
I love it. Praise be to Allah. Well, that's all my questions for now.
Listen, thank you so much. You took to that 3 questions, and those are good. I wish Tariq was on. He's gonna be so mad when he watched the show, but in a good way.
Right.
So, oh man, there's so many great comments. I gotta talk to you about this one on the back end.
I see. I think I know what you're talking about.
Romaine, what's up, Romaine? We went to Penn together. So the power of collaborations is deep. Having such collaborations among hospitals within multiple countries will be great to see. Brother Elijah, again, thank you so much for the highlight, Aki. This show is going to be the next big thing. All praise is due to Allah. Brother Joshua tapping in. OMS and the STEM files are extremely valuable assets for the nation and our people. Praise be to Allah. Brother Michael Safe Baker, thank you, sister and brother. All praise is due to Allah. Family, thank y'all. Listen, we already know y'all want another part, so just let us know. Put the Black fist up in the comments if you want to keep the train moving. But like I said, we do our best to be here every week, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to give you the light as it pertains to STEM with our people. We're going to keep moving. We're not going to stop, and look forward to Original Man Scientific and the STEM files being household names. We have a number of things in the work for service and products on the R&D, research and development side of things, and we're going to continue to grow this platform. So without further ado, if you are interested in, if you are liking the content and want to donate to help us continue to broaden the platform, you can do it at Cash App, hashtag the STEM files. That's hashtag the STEM files. Also, if you want to tap in with Sister Naa'irah, Sister Dr. Naa'irah, this is where you can do so. The email is Naa'irah Muhammad at Gmail, or IG __ Naa'irah. All right, and Facebook Naa'irah Muhammad. So I know that sis is well equipped, as you all have seen, to answer any questions that you may have, or get the answer if she doesn't have it. So with that, sis, like we did before, is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with before we close out?
No, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in for part 2. I enjoyed myself once again. This is an amazing show. I'm very proud of y'all, Jabril. Y'all amazing. What y'all doing is dope, and I'm very, very, very happy for y'all. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, family. Brilliant engineer, typically joined by Tariq Cardiac, Sister Dr. Naa'irah. Thank you for tapping in. The STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. Until next time, family. Peace.